Your Excellency, the Governor of Ekiti State and Chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, and my dear sister, his dear wife, Erelu Bisi Adeleye-Fayemi. Your Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Excellency Governor of Edo State, Mr. Godwin Obaseki, the Deputy Governor of Ekiti State, Osinbajo Bisi Adeleye-Fayemi, the Deputy Governor of Ondo State, Mr. Lucky Ayedatiwa, the Honorable Minister of Trade and Investment and First Civilian Governor of Ekiti State, Otumba Adeni Adebayo. Special advisors to the President on economic matters, political matters, and social investment program. The Speaker, Ekiti State House of Assembly, and members of the Ekiti State House of Assembly. The Chief Judge of Ekiti State, the Honorable Justice Oyewole Adeyeye, Secretary to the Ekiti State Government, Mr. Biodun Oyebanji, and members of the State Executive Council present, the Chairman of the Council of Obas, and all Royal Fathers present, captains of industry in the investing community, Your Excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. Ekiti kete o. Ekiti kete o. And that other thing that His Excellency said, I'm not so sure how I'm learning. Governor Fayemi, thank you very much for the kind invitation to join you at this third Investment and Economic Development Summit and the third anniversary celebration of the government of Ekiti State. Congratulations. And my gratitude for the warm and generous hospitality of Her Excellency Erelu Bisi Adeleye-Fayemi and your good self to me and my team today, as always. I bring you and the great people of this state, the fountain of knowledge, the very warm felicitations of Mr. President, President Muhammadu Buhari, on this auspicious occasion of the third anniversary of your government. As you know, President Muhammadu Buhari has a special interest in this state, being as your dynamic governor was actually on loan in his second coming from the Federal Executive Council, chaired by His Excellency the President. The theme of this summit is an important one: investment, attractiveness, and economic development, lessons for subnationals. The economy of the subnational is a peculiar animal. The state within the federation is not a nation, but it must behave like a nation. It derives some resources from the federal pool and generates some income. The sum of those will provide infrastructure and services to the community. But the size of the sum and the quantum of opportunity available to provide livelihoods for the populace will depend on how the state enables local and external investors, small and large, to put their resources into business and commercial activity in the state. The funded portion of the state's budget is, after all, a mere fraction of the sum total of economic activity or income-generating activity, formal or informal, within the state. So the attractiveness of a state to commerce is a radical issue. The very lives and livelihoods of the people within the borders of the state Whether the people will live prosperous and happy lives, be educated, have access to affordable medical care, depends on it. There is no question at all, and we've heard so much already, that Ekiti has established the foundations for a modern and thriving economy. The fundamentals are there. A modern, strong, consistently improving legal and justice sector with forward-looking laws, which include a contemporary administration of civil justice law, a first-of-its-kind Sustainable Development Goals law, a tourism and hospitality law, property protection law, and a 2020 amendment to the Ekiti State Board of Internal Revenue Law, which amongst other provisions enables the service to collect all taxes due to the state government and all local government councils in the state under any law through a centralized electronic payment platform. Now this is important for two reasons. The first is that it centralizes payment and it does so electronically. But also, it takes directly to the question of the bane of multiple revenue collectors and, of course, multiple taxation. This is a problem by itself, and this law deals directly with it. There's no question at all that when you deal with multiple taxation and you present a friendly business environment, things are completely different. Ekiti also has a very friendly business environment. It ranked 18th overall out of the 36 states and the FCT in the inaugural edition of Nigeria's own homegrown subnational ease of doing business baseline survey. The survey was commissioned to serve as a status report on the current attractiveness of business environments of states for small and medium-sized enterprises. Ekiti State was strongest in the skills and labor and infrastructure and security indicators, where it had an average comparative score of 5.35 and 5.05 respectively. Also in the last World Bank Ease of Doing Business Subnational Survey of Nigeria, the last one, which was released in 2018, Ekiti excelled in the area of dealing with construction permits, ranking 4th in the entire nation. This is a state that has vast arable land for agriculture and its value chains, a modern, strong, and effective media and public communication system, and of course an experienced CEO of the state, Governor Fayemi, whose academic and civil society background, and will leave out the outlaw days of Nadeco. His excellent relationships with international donors and DFIs, his experience as a second-term governor, and also one-time Minister of Mines and Steel, and as chair of the Governors Forum, where he has very important experience in extracting benefits for the states from the federal government. All of this put the state at a distinct advantage. So the evidence is compelling, and significantly, there's commitment here to a private sector-led economy, and this is important. Business is, if you'll pardon the pun, the business of the private sector. Governments should, as much as possible, facilitate or at best collaborate. And an excellent example is what we've heard already, the formerly state-owned Ikun dairy farms at Ikun Ekiti. After 40 years of inactivity, the state government has divested 76% of its shareholding to a private dairy company, Promacido, resulting in a company that is now producing over 80,000 liters of milk per month. And I'm told that this is from a herd of just 500 cows. There's also the recent commissioning of the concessioning of the iconic Ikogosi warm springs, affirming the same principle. And this is a very important principle, the idea that it is the private sector that really should lead in the economy. Some years ago, when we were in Lagos State, in 1999 as we assumed office. At the time, the previous government had sold majority shares in Eko Hotel. And when we got into office, we were very angry that the shares had been sold. And so we tried our best to get it back. We went to court, we did all sorts of things. But about a year into our court action, the Minister of Finance called me, I was serving then as Attorney General, and said to me that the new shareholders were prepared to pay some dividends. And I said, no, don't accept anything from them. They might go back to court and say, we have considered the case. But he said, why don't you listen to how much they want to pay first? When I heard how much they wanted to pay, I said, you have to take it immediately. The truth is that after many years of the state owning Eko Hotels, owning majority shares, we had made no profit, none whatsoever. And we spent, at the time, millions, up until the time when we took office in 1999, just trying to make that hotel work. Today, it's a thriving business. And Lagos State is earning significant dividends from it. I'm sure His Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State, can confirm. So the private sector-led model is obviously the best, and I think that this is absolutely the right way to go, as the Governor has indicated. There are several investments also in the agro-allied value chain, and we've been told about JMK Foods, an integrated rice mill, the FMS Farms, Promise Point, and Arog Limited, all with starch and ethanol production plants using cassava feedstock, and the Egbeja Farm, an export-focused snail farm. And there is a growing technology startup ecosystem with companies like KeenPlus Technologies, a software and web development company, building applications and enterprise promotion software, and also focused on talent development. I'm told there's also GM Tech Center, a research and technology institute, which has just been recently launched in Ekiti. All of these are thriving businesses, modern businesses that are functioning here because the environment has been provided for them to succeed. But Your Excellency, 2 Saturdays ago, I represented Mr. President at the swearing-in ceremony of the new president of the Sao Tome and Principe Republic. As I sat in that well-appointed hall and took in the solemn grandeur of the oath-taking of the new democratically elected president, I reflected. Here was a country whose GDP is $472 million, $472 million. And it's a nation. It has 1 vote in the United Nations, just as we have. Ekiti State has a GDP of $2.8 billion, 5 times the size of the GDP of the nation of Sao Tome and Principe. But it's not just Sao Tome and Principe. Ekiti's GDP is higher than that of the nation of Gambia. Gambia has a GDP of $1.9 billion, and also a higher GDP than that of Cape Verde, with a GDP of $1.7 billion. Or Seychelles, the lovely tourist destination, which has just $1.1 billion in GDP. Ekiti's GDP is about the same as the GDP of Liberia, which just has $2.95 billion. So all of these, so the Nigerian subnational, and we're talking of Ekiti State now. We're not even talking about Lagos. So the Nigerian subnational is indeed a peculiar animal. Even a relatively small state like Ekiti State, small in terms of population in particular, and even allocations from federal revenue, has a bigger economy than many African nations. So the hopefully useful point to be made here is that there has to be a collective change of mind, a collective change of mindset. Thinking differently. There is a need for a subnational to think like a sovereign state. You have a bigger GDP and even more revenues than many nations. I was talking once to the president of a West African country that has 5 million people. Its total population is 5 million. And I was telling him about our homegrown school feeding program, where we feed 9.6 million children every single day. And he said to me, bro, come and feed us now. We're only 5 million. We're only 5 million. You can feed all of us every day if you want. So the question the policymaker should ask is, what if I were a landlocked nation? How will we survive? And there's a different mindset when you are sure of a monthly allocation of cash, at least enough to pay salaries, whether you generate income or not. This is the challenge, the so-called Dutch disease. And, of course, one becomes complacent. But what if you had to take responsibility for all of those who reside within your borders, pay all the salaries from only internally generated revenue? Sometimes a shock is what you need. And that's what happened to us in Lagos. And I'm sure that we all know the story. Governor Fayemi was very much a part of the thinking through some of the issues there. Lagos was happy with its allocations. We started off with 600 million a month. In 1999-2000, 600 million a month. I mean, today it is making $1 billion, but we started in Lagos at the time, it was 600 million. Until then, President Obasanjo seized our local government funds. And he did so for 3 years, in fact, until he left office, even after the Supreme Court had ordered the release of the funds. So we were compelled to think like a sovereign state. We moved to re-engineer our tax office, much like what the state government is doing here, and our lands registry, which of course is our own oil. And from an IGR of 600 million in 1999 and 2000, Lagos today does almost 45 billion a month, and it's targeting 60 billion by next year, I'm told. So I think the surest way forward is to deepen investments in the niche areas, or at least the areas of Ekiti's comparative advantage. We have already noted the tremendous potential in agriculture and dairy, but clearly the way of the future, especially for the huge population of young men and women seeking good paying jobs, is technology. And I think you are in the flow of progress with the planned establishment of the Technology Special Economic Zone. Clearly, the future of fast-growing economies is in the knowledge economy. Every day, we are beginning to see the transition, as Shimon Peres, former Prime Minister of Israel, said. From the age of territory, we are entering the age of science. Land size, natural resources are forced to give way to science and the knowledge economy. Science has no borders. Of course, land has borders, and visa and immigration restrictions. Technology has erased those borders and even physical offices. So young men and women in Ekiti State can work from here and earn world-class wages. This is why the planned investment in that Ekiti knowledge zone is strategic. And it's exciting to see that the plan is to use business process outsourcing as an anchor. It's designed, I'm told, to be a service-led special economic zone, a digital technology hub, leveraging its proximity to 5 different tertiary institutions. This, if one may borrow the term, is the future of jobs. It certainly is the future of jobs. And I think we must commend the farsightedness of the state governor and his team for determining that technology, especially the knowledge economy, is the way to go. However, a digital SEZ, to be successful, must be attractive to digital companies. That means that there must be high-quality, well-trained talent. And I'm glad to hear already that on account of the reduction in the charges for laying of cables for broadband connectivity, the state is already attracting investment in the laying of cables. And that, I think, is fantastic, because it's an important component of the knowledge economy and of using that for commercial purposes. So we need trained local talent. It was the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, who was asked why his company was investing in China. He was investing so much. He said, and I quote, "The number1 reason why we like to be in China is the people. China has extraordinary skills, and they have what is most unknown about them is there are almost 2 million application developers, 2 million application developers who reside in China that write applications for our iOS App Store. 2 million app developers in one country. So gone are the days when you could argue that you should be an attractive destination for investment because you have cheap labor. Today, well-trained technology and innovation talent is the game changer. So there are 3 keys to this knowledge economy, which in my opinion is the future. And the 3 keys are education, 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 education. I think it will be important for Ekiti State to leverage its famed love and its famed passion for education. And I think that some will remember how, in those days of the First Republic, the eloquent and witty politician, Chief Kayode Fayemi, was the joke around him at the time when people would say that Badiwe or Badiwe Gopapa, Ekitiaka, Tipali. I think that Ekiti has not lost. I think Ekiti has not lost that edge, and this is the moment, I believe, to refocus, especially on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM education. This is vital for being able to participate effectively in the 4th Industrial Revolution, which is at once a digital age and a knowledge age. This must be the fountain of the knowledge economy. I think we must go beyond the fountain of knowledge. It must become the fountain of the knowledge economy. And I believe that you're all set for that purpose. Of course, education is not only at the high end, but also it requires a strategic framework for imparting technical and vocational skills to artisans. The importance of having a pool of healthy, well-trained workers, such as electricians, fitters, mechanics, laboratory technicians, welders, machine toolists, and even web designers, is vital for an ecosystem that will be attractive for technology and innovation investments. Happily, Ekiti State has the highest score among the states of the Federation in the technical and professional skills category of the ease of doing business rankings. So there is a strong foundation to build upon this. But I think there's more to leverage on. For example, there is tremendous potential for the development of a whole medical education and healthcare industry around the huge private investment in the iconic Afe Babalola University and the Aboard Multi-System Teaching Hospital. And I know that the state was helpful in providing access roads and I believe some other facilities when that campus was being developed. Today, Aboard that multi-system hospital is getting mentioned internationally for complex surgeries that are being done there. A variety of cardiac surgeries, neurosurgery breakthroughs in skull-based tumors, spine surgeries, even a special type of neuron surgery called awake neurosurgery, where the patient is actually awake while his brain is being operated on. Many countries of the world do not have the number of medical talent assembled in that hospital alone. So there are huge opportunities here. And I believe that we must tap into those opportunities also. So let me close by commending again Governor Kayode Fayemi and the excellent team that you lead. Your Attorney General, my dear friend, was with us in leading a team of Southwest Attorneys General. And after showing us all that he had done in Ekiti State, I had to remind him that he actually came from Ogun State. That is, of course, he would argue about that. So I must commend you for leading a focused and value-sensitive, modern and well-informed approach to governance. So much has been done. So much has been done, but much remains to be done. And on your 3rd anniversary in office, I pray that you will finish well and finish strong, and that this state and its great people will continually enjoy peace and prosperity. God bless you all. Thank you.